Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today as we welcome our Secretary of Education, Dr. Miguel Cardona. With us today, we also have our Mayor Harry Rilling, who will be welcoming our Secretary of Education. Mayor Rilling?
Well, thank you, Dr. Estrella and Mr. Secretary. We're so honored to have you take time from your busy schedule to be here to join us right here in Norwalk, Connecticut, in your home state of Connecticut. So welcome, and I know our students are just excited to meet you, and I don't want to take their time. So Dr. Estrella, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Mayor Rilling. So, Secretary Cardona, we have a panel of students here today that are really excited to meet you and have some really interesting questions to ask you about your journey and your learning experiences, and talking about what it took to get to become the person you are today. A role model for all of our students and someone that is really setting the path forward for our educational system and making strides in the midst of this pandemic. I'm going to turn it over to Catherine, and each student will formally introduce themselves as they pose their questions to you.
Thank you very much for that. And I look forward to Catherine's question. I want to first off just start off by saying thank you for having me. Let me start with the mayor. Mayor, your job has changed in the last 2 years, and I think we've all wanted to serve, and I want to thank you for your service. I understand you were the chief of police, but before that you served in the military. You served our entire country. So thank you for your service and for what you're doing now to support our students, not only during this pandemic, but beyond. And Dr. Estrella, when I was in Connecticut as commissioner, you came on board, and I knew then you were an Estrella, and you continue to be. So thank you for your leadership and your passion. And I really am honored to be here. I look forward to the questions from the students, and I appreciate the invitation. So, Catherine.
Hi, Mr. Cardona. It's really lovely meeting you. My name is Catherine Chariaga, and I'm a senior at Center for Global Studies. So I wanted to start off by asking you a very important question, which is, what motivated you to want to become an educator?
Well, thank you for that question, Catherine. Like the superintendent and the mayor, I just wanted to serve the community, right? I wanted to help out in whatever way I felt like I can make the most difference. And to be honest with you, I never thought I was going to be a teacher. When I went to school, I went to a technical high school. I was changing engines in automobiles in high school. I went to a technical high school, and I had a teacher that tapped me on the shoulder who said, I noticed through your artwork, you're using art to kind of talk about what you believe and what your values are. Have you ever considered being a teacher? And at that point, I'm like, maybe I will, maybe I will consider being a teacher. Growing up, Catherine, my father was also a police officer like your mayor was. And I thought maybe I'd go into law enforcement to serve the community. My brother became a police officer, my older brother. So I'm like, maybe that's the route I'm going to go. But when that teacher tapped me on the shoulder and said, consider a career in education, I thought to myself, that's another way I could serve the community, right? And what I ended up doing, Catherine, I went to college to become an art teacher, but then I started going toward elementary education because I loved working with kids, and I loved it. And for me, it wasn't what the job was. It was serving my community, giving back. Meriden, I grew up in Meriden, which is similar to Norwalk in some ways. For me, Meriden gave me so much. I went to the schools in Meriden. I went to church in Meriden, and I grew up in a community that's very diverse like Norwalk is, and I love my community. I wanted to give back to it. So it was really more about serving my community. And then I found education was the path to do that. So that I became a teacher, a principal here in Meriden. And I didn't leave Meriden until I served as Commissioner of Education, really. Thanks for that question.
Thank you for your response. It was really great hearing what you had to say, and it helped me to further understand you as a person.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Catherine. Arden?
Hi, Dr. Cardona. It's really exciting being with you today. And I'm Arden Estanislao, and I am an 8th grader here at CMS K through 8 school. And my question is, what is it like working with the Vice President and the President in the White House?
it's almost as cool as seeing you be Sebastian the Crab in the play. I have to be honest with you, Arden. I was in the White House yesterday and I had a meeting there, and I'm humbled when I get to walk into the White House and I have an opportunity to serve with, whether it's the president, the vice president, or members of the team there. I'm very humbled. To me, it represents an opportunity that I have because of the sacrifice of my parents and my grandparents. I think we have that in common, right? That all of us are fortunate to have opportunities because people before us sacrificed a lot. So when I walk into that White House, yes, it's amazing. Yes, it's like awe-inspiring. And when I get to talk to the president or the vice president, it's humbling, very humbling to say, wow, I'm actually having a conversation around a path forward in our country with the president of the United States. But it's also an opportunity to reaffirm all the hard work that went into me having the opportunities that I have, right? And yes, I sacrificed. Yes, I had to go to school to get my doctorate. Yes, I had to grind, but so did people that came before me so that I could have this. So for me, it's really, I guess humbling is the best word. It never gets old. I'll tell you a quick story. I was there for the Thanksgiving turkey pardoning, right? And I've seen it on TV before, but I was sitting in the Rose Garden, like in the front row when the president pardoned the turkeys. And I was just thinking to myself, like, how lucky am I to be here? So as much as it's work and we're focusing on education, getting schools open, it doesn't get lost on me that I have an opportunity to be in the White House, where I see portraits of former presidents, of George Washington, of Abraham Lincoln. I'm in that space where presidents worked and presidents work now. And it's very humbling. I think humbling is the best word to describe it.
Thank you. Your answer really inspired me, and I appreciate your answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arden. Roy?
Hello, Dr. Cardona. My name is Roy Rock. Thank you for being here. I'm in 8th grade at Nathan Hill Middle School, and I wanted to ask you, what's your favorite part of your job, and what's the most difficult part of it?
Yeah, thank you for that question. My favorite part of the job is experiences like this, being around students, because at the end of the day, I'm still that teacher that wants to help the community. I'm still that person that just, speaking with the president is awesome, and working, having meetings with the president, other cabinet members, that's amazing. But I got into this to help children. And when I have opportunities to engage with students, whether they're, elementary age all the way up to college or, even postgrads, it keeps me going. So that's the best part of the job. I think the most challenging part of the job is really just trying to make sure that we can continue to use education to unite folks, right? Education should bring people together. And I think part of the challenge is not only COVID, but, the country can be divided at times. And, it's really important that education brings people together. It's a pathway for improvement, not only for ourselves or our communities, but for our country. So to me, that's my, it's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity, Roy. I look at it as, whatever challenges there are, they're opportunities. The pandemic created a lot of disruption in education, but it also gave us an opportunity to reimagine education or do things differently than we've done in the past. So I think if I contextualize my challenges as opportunities, I feel more confident that we're going to get things done. And I do believe we're going to get things done.
Thank you, Dr. Cardona. That really helped me understand.
Thank you, Roy. Darryl?
Dr. Estrella, I love your students already. I mean, if this is a representative of what Norwalk offers, kudos to all the team over there in Norwalk.
We have an amazing set of educators and leaders, so I'm really proud to be here, and I hope one day you can come in person.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's the goal.
Darryl, I'll turn it to you.
Hello, Dr. Cardona. My name is Darryl Jimenez. I'm an 8th grade student at West Roxbury School. And my question is, what school subject do you think has impacted you the most?
Well, Daryl, I'll tell you, and I know you're a multilingual, right? Should I answer it in French or Spanish or English? Is English okay? Okay, good. I'm going to be honest with you. I think my art course. I've had many great classes, and especially in college, I had some courses that I really, really got into. But the art course, because the teacher helped me see beyond the content of the class, right? That class, the high school art class, not only did I learn about art, but I learned about myself through art. And I know on this call, we have several students that are in theater programs, or you know what I'm talking about. When you're really engaged in the arts, you get to learn about yourself and what you're passionate about. So while in that art class, I learned how to paint, or I learned how to draw, I also learned about how to strengthen my values and how to seek a career that is aligned with who I am as a person. And I learned that about myself in that class. So I have to say that art class was my favorite class.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. Allison?
Good morning, Dr. Cardona. It's a huge honor to have you here today. My name is Allison Figueroa, and I'm a senior here at P-Tech Norwalk. And the question I have for you today is, based on your experience, what impact has COVID had on students and education, both positive and negative?
Thank you for that question, Allison. And, not only am I Secretary of Education, but I think my most important role is that of a father. I have two children who are in high school, who I got to see firsthand how the impact of the pandemic, what it had on them. And I have to say, and I'm very, very open about this across the country, the emotional well-being of students, I think, took a bigger impact. We talk a lot about the digital divide, how some students had access to broadband and devices, and it's true. Many students didn't. But I felt that during the pandemic, what affected students the most was the relational divide. The fact that they couldn't be with their friends, the fact that they couldn't be in the cafeteria hanging out, just goofing around, being middle schoolers, being high schoolers, the fact that they couldn't be in their classrooms with their teachers and ask that follow-up question that they don't want to ask on Zoom. Some of those relational things that were missing, I think, had an impact. And that's why I pushed really hard for school reopening, because I needed to push so that students have that access to one another again. And I hear from students across the country that they just want to be around each other. They'll wear the masks. They just want to be around each other. So that was a challenge. Now, what it did, I think one of the positives is, number one, it reminded them how important school was to them, right? For my own children, I never thought I'd see my son, who's a senior, say, I really want to go to school. I really want to go to school. Most seniors, they want to sleep in a little bit. Well, he really wanted to be around his friends, his soccer team, his teachers. So it really showed the importance of school, but it also showed us that we could do things differently. That, we need to really think about how to, make school, what I say is evolve our high schools more quickly, right? So maybe we can do some online courses. I know, Allison, you have a lot of college credits because you're really taking advantage of what your high school offers. So you have a leg up to so many students. So we need to start thinking how we can do that for more students in our high schools. I think that was one of the benefits, that it showed us that we could do things a little bit differently and get maybe even better results.
Thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you, Allison. Maria?
Good morning, Dr. Cardona. My name is
Hello.
Maria Luque. I am a senior here at Norwalk High School, and it's a pleasure to be meeting you today.
Thank you.
So my question is, what are some obstacles you've encountered as a first-generation student in school and while applying to college?
That's a great question. And, I want to just be very clear. The path forward is confusing, it's tough, it's challenging, it's different for all students. As a first generation student, you're going to find that maybe you don't have a handful of people that you can just call in your family and say, hey, how did you handle this? Or what did you do to get this done? So some of the challenges for me as a first generation college student was like, I came from a technical high school, so I didn't pick courses in high school. So when I got to college, I had to pick courses for the first time. I was 18 years old. I didn't know how to pick courses, what path to take. So I ended up taking a lot of wrong courses. And what I needed to do is learn how to be my own self-advocate, right? So what I tell you, Maria, is advocate for yourself as much as possible, obviously respectfully, and just try to learn as much about the process as possible. But you have to be your biggest self-advocate. You have to be your biggest self-advocate. And I'm going to flip it a little bit too, to say, as a first-gen college student, there were a lot of challenges, right? It was new. I didn't have a lot of people that I could turn to about it. But there was also a lot of extra motivation. Because I was a first-gen, I was carrying the sacrifices of my parents with me, knowing that if I walk that stage, I'm representing my parents too. Because my parents didn't have an opportunity to go to college. So I knew that the motivation was just that much bigger. I knew that, and I'll tell you, Maria, even when I was going for my doctorate, I was a first gen, right? And I knew that all their sacrifices, I get to celebrate with them. When I walk that stage, they're walking it with me. And just yesterday, when I made a speech about the priorities that we have at the Department of Education, I always try to find ways to honor my parents in my speaking. So you're going to find that when you go to college, you're going to be representing those people that work really hard to give you that opportunity to go to college. So it's not all bad. Being a first gen, for me, I had more motivation to get it done because I knew that I was cumpliendo with sacrifices that others before me made.
Thank you so much. That was very insightful.
Thank you, Maria. Luis?
Good morning, Dr. Cardona. It's a pleasure meeting you. My name is Luis Acosta, and I'm an 8th grader at Puno Switch Middle School. My first question is, ¿hubo algún momento en el cual quisiste rendirte? Si es así, ¿cómo perseveraste?
Bueno, sí, claro. Yo siempre he dicho que me crié con familia, me crié con un ambiente que me apoyan mucho, ¿verdad? So, cuando yo fui a la universidad me sentí un poco nervioso, como que no me sentía cómodo ahí, no conocía a nadie y me sentía como que no quería estar ahí. Pero me recuerdo, como le dije a María, me recuerdo que el apoyo que tengo de mi familia extiende donde quiera que yo estoy. Puede ser que yo en la universidad o hasta en Washington, D.C., siempre voy a tener el apoyo de mi familia. So, para mí, recordando que yo represento no solamente a mí, pero también a mi familia, eso me dio el empujo, me dio el ánimo de seguir adelante. Y el consejo para ustedes es, nunca se olviden que representan no solamente a ustedes, pero tu familia entera. So basically, yeah, I've had points where I felt like, well, should I keep going? Should I be doing this? When I went to college, I kind of felt like a fish out of water a little bit. I didn't know too many people. While I was continuing my doctorate, it just kind of seemed like it was insurmountable. But I relied on what motivated me my whole life, that support of my family, that support of a community that stood behind me, and that kept me going. And I encourage everyone on this call to just keep in mind that you have a community and a family and people around you that support you and love you no matter where you are. So that should serve as your motivation.
Thanks a lot. Muchas gracias.
De nada, Luis.
Gracias, Luis. Ram?
Hi, Dr. Cardona. It's a pleasure to talk to you. I'm Ram Perez. I'm a senior here at Brown McMahon High School. My question for you is, what advice would you give to your own kids in order to succeed in today's world?
There's talk about having pressure, right? And, well, look, I'll give you a little bit of, Ram, I'll give you a little bit about my story, right? I told you before I went to a technical high school. My father and my brother were in law enforcement. They also play guitar. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of the path I have to go through, right? And then I realized, like maybe sophomore year in high school, that I love that stuff, but I love the arts, right? I love drawing, painting. And I said, let me try that. So sometimes when there's a fork in the road, you have to go straight. You choose your path. Follow what makes you happy. Follow your passion, not a position, right? I never set out to be Secretary of Education. I set out to help my community. So that was my passion, and doors open when you follow your passion. So to my own children, make your own path. If you want to be a teacher, I would love that. Follow your own path, follow your own passion, stay true to who you are, and doors will open. If you give it your best and you work your hardest, doors will open. So my advice to my own children, the same advice I give to everyone here. What's your passion? Pursue that. And if that passion is to help others and find a way to do that, because you feel better when you're serving others. So I think for my children and for you, my advice would be look inside of who you are, find whatever passion you have, and then pursue that.
Thank you very much.
What's your passion, Ren?
Well, actually, I have a few that I'm still exploring right now. I feel like there's tons of things that I'm into right now, ranging from fitness to business. I couldn't really tell you an exact answer yet, but we're working on it.
And I know you're on the governance council too, so maybe mayor in front of the name Ren in the future might sound good. Not anytime soon, Mayor Rilling. Not anytime soon.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Ram. Ubleska?
Hello, Dr. Cardona.
Hi.
So nice meeting you. I'm Ubleska Gutierrez, and I'm a 8th grader at Rowan Middle School. So my question is, what are your plans for the future of education in the U.S., and what do you think that would look like?
Well, thank you for that. Just yesterday, I had a chance in DC to share my priorities. And, one of the best parts about it is I had students in front of me. So when I'm talking about where I want to go as a Secretary of Education and where I think our country needs to go, I was able to speak to students directly. For me, it's ensuring that we do better as we come back from the pandemic, right? I don't want it to go back to what it was 2-3 years ago. When many of you were in middle school or the beginning parts of high school. It should be better. I want to make sure that we address, and I know you're really into equality, Yubeshka, so I want to make sure that all students have a chance to succeed and that we address gaps in learning, right? We know some kids were impacted by the pandemic more than others. So I want to make sure that when we come back with some of the resources from the federal government, that we're able to provide students with a little bit more tutoring if they need it, that we provide more mental health supports for students, right? I think you'll agree with me that
yes,
we have to make sure that we're not forgetting that our students went through a lot, and so did our educators, and that we have a chance now to design our schools to take that into account, right? Maybe more social workers, psychologists, maybe more time with students talking about what's going on and having a bigger voice in how school looks, right? I also want to make sure that you have more opportunities to go to college without worrying about being in so much debt, right? Too many of our students graduate college and they have so much debt that they're questioning whether they should have done it. That's un-American. We got to fix that. So we're working really hard on doing that so that all students have access to college without worrying that it's going to cost too much. I really want to redesign high schools. I'm excited about that across the country. I want to make sure that students like yourselves have options when you graduate, right? You can go to a 2-year school to get skills to get into the workforce, or you could go to a 4-year school where you can continue to learn about something that you're passionate about or get a degree like in teaching or nursing or something like that. Or maybe you have a career pathway where these high-paying, high-skilled jobs are available right now that we're connected in a way where students have options like I did when I was in high school. I could have went on to work on cars and get into that field, but I chose to go to college. So I had options. I want all students to have options, not only to grow for themselves, but also to be able to work if they want to work, or to go to college, 2-year or 4-year, without having so much debt. I'm not asking for a lot, am I?
Oh, no, I think that what you're doing is great, and that you're forgiving people's student debt. And it's really important for everyone to have access to education and to college. And I think you're doing the right thing into doing that, and also helping us with our social emotional needs, which we also do need to work on. I believe that it's okay to have a bad day. And it's important for us to understand our needs, and also for our educators too. Like, we all have bad days, and it's good to know that you are working on that. And it's great that you also wanted to become an art teacher, because I also want to be an art teacher.
Yubleshka, you know, if you're in 8th grade, maybe an internship at the Department of Education is in your near future as you get older. But, you know, we do have to provide that emotional well-being. One of my fears, and I said this yesterday, is that we address symptoms of trauma through disciplinary practices. And that happens if we're not trained, or if we don't invest in making sure systems are dealing with the whole child. And that's the pandemic is going to force us into that area. And I know so many educators across the country understand that. Our students definitely understand it. So I think that's an opportunity for us moving forward. Thank you for the question, Yubleshka.
No, thank you. Thank you for being a good educator and for being here today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you, Yubleshka. We, I think, have room for one more question. Catherine?
I wanted to start off by saying thank you so much for answering all our questions so far. They have been really inspiring. The last question is, what is a goal you would like to complete this year?
You know, you cut out a little bit. It might have been my connection. Could you repeat the question, please?
What is a goal you would like to complete this year?
That's a great question. Well, we're at 96% of our schools open full time. I want 100%. And I want to get the ball rolling on getting our high school redesign across the country established. I want to ensure that districts feel comfortable with the funding that they have to make some bold moves around career and college pathways. I want to make sure that we have quality intervention and support set up across the country for all those students who were struggling with bad internet access for the last year and a half and missed out on a lot of instruction. I want to make sure that every high school in the country has a career counselor by the end of this upcoming year, so that we can start having conversations with our workforce partners, with our 2-year and 4-year schools, on how to create pathways so students could end up like Maria with so many credits when she graduates high school. I want to make sure that every child in the country, all 50 million of them, have access to a school social worker or a school psychologist. I want to make sure that every teacher feels valued and has opportunities for growth themselves. I ask for a lot, Catherine, because I have a short window and we have a lot of need in education, but it's my goal to accomplish those things, not only this year, but to continue to grow on that every year.
Thank you for your answer. It's really inspiring. I feel that you talking about budget issues is something really important, because all around Connecticut, we are always struggling with funding and budgets for schools. And I think that fixing this issue will be really great for school systems and for kids to get better education. So thank you.
Thank you. And, you know, one last thing, and I'll turn it over to the superintendent. And I know Dr. Estrella understands this really well from her work in not only in Connecticut, but in New York. Like, our students are our best resources, really. You not only provide us with motivation, but you're inspiring in your understanding of how to move things forward. I have a lot of confidence in our system moving forward. I have a lot of confidence in our country because of the students that are in our classrooms today. Never underestimate what you bring to the table. Never underestimate your perspective, your passion, the gifts and talents you bring to the table. You're going to be the reason why our country is going to continue to grow and lead the world. So I just want to let you know that as you continue to find your voice and your passion, don't be afraid to be a part of a group that helps shape what schools look like, that helps shape what Norwalk looks like, or that helps shape what Connecticut looks like, because you have to think big. Someday you're going to be in a position where you're going to make decisions that are going to affect the entire country. I was in your shoes I'd like to say not too long ago, but it was in the 1900s. But I was in your shoes, and you know, my story is not special. I'm just like you. So continue to follow your passion and your dreams, and good things will happen. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you, Secretary Cardona. It's been such a pleasure to have you here amongst our panelists. I know this has been a life-changing experience for them and quite rewarding. We welcome you to join us soon again to continue the conversation, continue to do the great work that you're doing for our nation. We're really proud of what you're doing, especially since you're one of ours. You're one of our Connecticut leaders doing great things for our nation. Do you have any final closing words for our students as we close out this event today, those in the panel as well as those watching in their classrooms alongside their teachers?
Well, I want to thank the Norwalk Public Schools. I want to thank the teachers that are watching. I know the last year and a half has been, upside down. But through it all, you've continued to serve. You've continued to be that connection to your students. So thank you for what you're doing and what you're going to be doing. To the students that are paying attention, that are listening, continue to work hard and do your best. Continue to find your passion and pursue that. I know our country's in good hands because you're going to be leading it. And I look forward to continuing to serve you and to make sure that I represent you in all that I do. So thanks for the invitation, Norwalk. Every time I either visit or talk to folks from Norwalk, I'm just more and more impressed. You have such a great energy there, and I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you for an amazing morning. Have a great rest of your day and continue to make us proud.
Thank you.